Hi, third grade. Today in language arts, we read the science article called How Hail Happens. It says at the top, as you read, look inside, around, and beyond this word to figure out what it means. The word is conditions. Say it. Conditions. All right, let's go ahead and get started with paragraph 1. A soft rain is falling on the roof. You smile. Suddenly, the sound gets louder. It sounds like golf balls are bouncing off the roof. You race to the window. Outside, round balls of ice cover the ground. It is hailing. How did rain turn into hard hail in a matter of seconds? Inside, a storm cloud. It actually takes longer than a few seconds for hail to form. It all starts with a storm cloud. Storm clouds are made of water droplets. Large storm clouds are both very wide and very tall. At the top, air is much colder than it is lower down. Raindrops start to form at the bottom of the cloud, where it is warmer. Journey of a raindrop. As wind moves the storm cloud, it also moves some of the raindrops inside of it. Some of the raindrops move toward the top of the cloud. If the raindrops meet the very cold air there, then they turn to ice. These new ice drops get heavier. As a result, they fall to the ground as hailstones. So let's take a look at this diagram here. Step number 1, it's showing us the sequence. Wind blows raindrops up into a colder level of the cloud. So if raindrops start down here and it's windy, it could blow it up. And when they go up, it's colder as they rise, and then they turn into ice. Here it is. Step 2, the raindrops freeze then and become hailstones. All right, let's look at paragraph 4. Clear and cloudy hail. Some hail is very clear. Other hail looks like pieces of white chalk. When the hailstone is clear, it is because there is little air in it. That happens when the raindrops freeze slowly. Then the air bubbles in the water have time to escape. Milky looking hailstones have many small air bubbles. That happens when the air at the top of the cloud is super cold. That cold air turns the raindrops into ice right away. The air bubbles are trapped inside. Okay, paragraph 5. Hailstones of every shape and size. Sometimes strong winds move up through a cloud. The wind can pick up the falling hailstones and push them back up. At the top, the hailstones meet the cold air again. There, they get a new coat of ice. In a strong thunderstorm, that can happen several times. When you look carefully at a hailstone, you may see some rings. Each ring is one layer of ice. If you count the rings, then you will know how many times the hailstone has made the trip to the top of the cloud. This up and down movement causes hailstones to have very unusual shapes. It also makes the hailstones bigger. Some hailstones can be the size of a pebble. Other hailstones can be larger than a baseball. Next time you see hail on your lawn, pick some up and look at it closely. It may have quite a story to tell. All right, now step number 3, it says hailstones, when they freeze, can become larger and heavier, and eventually the hail will fall to the ground. Okay, if you turn your page, it wants us to look at these questions after reading the selection. Question 1 has 2 parts. First, answer part A, and then answer part B. Part A asks, how do raindrops become hailstones? Is it A, warm clouds form hailstones? B, raindrops in the cold air become ice? C, the wind makes hailstones? Or D, the soft rain makes hailstones? Well, I'm hoping you don't think it's A. I would eliminate A because warm warm clouds are not responsible for forming hailstones at all. I would say that's the worst choice to make. And I would also eliminate choice D. The soft rain makes hailstones? No. So I think the best answer here, it's not just wind. It's not wind because, it could be windy outside and it doesn't just automatically make hailstones. The key is that raindrops in the cold air become ice. Okay? So I would choose B for part A there. Let's go ahead and look at part B. Which sentence from the text best explains what causes raindrops to turn into hail? So we need to support that. If the raindrops meet the very cold air there, then they turn into ice. Well, does that talk about raindrops meeting cold air and turning to ice? It sure does. I really feel like that's a good answer, but let's read the rest just to make sure. As wind moves the storm cloud, it also moves some of the raindrops inside of it. I like A better, talking about raindrops meeting cold air in the cloud. How about C? Raindrops start to form at the bottom of the cloud where it's warmer. Warmer doesn't turn the ice, right? And D, at the top, air is much colder than it is lower down. Well, we're getting there, but it's at the top where the raindrops can meet the cold air and then turn to ice. I like choice A for that one. All right, take a look at number 2. It says, match each cause to an effect. All right, so this is the why something happens, and this is the what happens as a result. So let's see here. Wind moves the storm clouds. What happens as a result of that? Wind moving the clouds. The raindrops turn to ice. They fall to the ground as hailstones. Raindrops inside the cloud begin to move. Visioning the clouds being blown by wind, and I'm thinking, that's causing those raindrops inside the cloud to start to move. I really do like choice C for that one, but let's see. The hailstones are milky white. No, or layers of ice are added. I think this first line, when the wind moves the clouds, the raindrops inside the cloud start moving. I like C up there. Okay, try this one. Air bubbles are trapped inside the freezing water. Well, I remember from the text, when you have air bubbles trapped inside that ice, it causes the hailstones to not be clear, correct? It causes the hailstones to be very milky white. Okay, D is there because of air bubbles trapped inside. How about this one? Hailstones move up and down in the cloud. So, what is a result of that? If they're moving up and down, each time they move up, another layer of ice is added, right? I think that one is E. Layers of ice are added each time it goes up and down, up and down. Try this one. Raindrops meet cold air. What happens as a result? Is it A or B? The raindrops turn to ice, or they fall to the ground as hailstones. Right, as soon as they meet cold air, they freeze and turn to ice. This one is choice A. And lastly, the ice drops become heavier. When they're too heavy for the cloud, what happens? Right, B. They fall to the ground as hailstones. Good work. Okay. Now let's move on to question 3. Read this sentence from the article. Storm clouds are made of water droplets. Notice the word with the ending lit. Droplet. That ending means a small type of something. According to the sentence, what are storm clouds made of then? Smaller clouds? Is that what a droplet is? Warm drops of water? Tiny drops of water? Or heavy drops of water? If it's a droplet, it just said a small type of something. So which one talks about small drops? Right. Choice C, tiny drops of water. That's what a water droplet is. Okay, number 4. What are 3? Okay, we have to pick 3 answers. 3 effects of hailstones moving up and down the cloud. Okay, moving up and down in the cloud, what happens as a result of that? The hailstone break apart. Did it talk about hailstones breaking? Mm-mm. The hailstones add layers of ice. What do we say? We said that kind of in the other part there, number 2. Every time it makes a trip up and down inside that cloud, it adds a new layer of ice. Definitely choice B. Let's try C. The hailstones get stuck in a storm cloud and never fall. Does that happen? No, they'll eventually fall. It's not choice C. The hailstones warm up and turn back into raindrops. Did it talk about them warming up? No, it's too cold up there for it to warm up. The hailstones grow larger. Absolutely. Every time they add a layer of ice, the hailstones grow larger as well. So far we have choice B and choice E. How about F? The hailstones may take on unusual shapes. Is that true? It did. It said that. Um, it said sometimes they're, round, sometimes they're not round. And G, the hailstones fill with air bubbles. Well, although the hailstones could potentially fill with air bubbles, that's not part of necessarily traveling up and down. It sometimes just happens, it sometimes doesn't. Not necessarily, though. All right, and let's look at number 5. It says, what causes rings to form in a hailstone? The hail's up and down movement in the clouds. I think that causes the layers to form. So don't layers cause the rings? Escaping air bubbles? No, that means if there are no air bubbles that it's clear. That has nothing to do with rings. The warm air at the bottom of the cloud? No. Or the cold air at the top? I think the best answer here is A. The rings are formed by layers of ice that are added as that hailstone moves up and down. All right, so I think that one is choice A. That up and down movement causes the rings. All right. Number 6, let's see. Why are some hailstones clear? Do you remember in that paragraph why some of them are clear? We know that if there are air bubbles, that makes them milky. We already talked about that. But what if they are clear? Is it A, air bubbles get caught inside the hailstones? No, that would make it not clear. That would make it milky. How about B? There is almost no air inside the hailstones? Right. Yeah, I'm leaning towards B. The fact that there's no air bubbles means that, it's clear. C, the temperature inside the cloud is cold. Or D, there are strong winds inside the cloud. It has to do with either there being air bubbles in the hailstone or no air bubbles. And if it's clear, right, there's hardly any air inside of those hailstones. Choice B is correct there. All right, the last thing we're going to do is write a little written response here. It says hailstones can be as small as pebbles or as large as baseballs. Some also have very unusual shapes. How does that happen? They want you to reread the text. Draw a box around the section that tells why hailstones can be different shapes and sizes. Well, it says reread paragraph 5. Underline details that explain how hailstones get their shape and size. And you can definitely use that information in your written response when you explain. Okay? What causes hailstones to get as big as baseballs and develop odd shapes? So if you look back, and this is where you could use your races graphic organizer. But if you look too far, if you look back into our passage, I hope that you use this text feature called a subheading because these headings tell you what the section's about. This says hailstones of every shape and size. You better be looking at paragraph 5 to answer why some hailstones are as big as baseballs and some can have very unusual shapes. All right, so do your best to restate the question and to use evidence from the text to support your work. All right, third grade, nice job today. I will see you next time.